Namaste. In the previous two chapters, we looked at compounds that contain a halogen as a functional group and compounds which contain an OH group as a functional group. In the next set of compounds, we will look at compounds which contain a carbonyl group as a functional group. Now, who's a carbonyl group? A carbonyl group is a C double bond O group. So, if any compound contains a C double bond O functionality, then we call such compounds as carbonyl compounds. For our understanding in this chapter, we will look at three of such compounds: aldehydes, ketones, and carboxylic acids. So we are very familiar with the content flow, the way with which we will proceed with the chapter. We will look at what they are, we look at their types, how to name them, how do we prepare them, and finally, why do we need them? What are the compounds that are important to us, which they give during reactions, and finally, their uses in everyday life. Let's look at understanding the first question, what these compounds are. So I will give you three compounds with three different structures. I want you to look at the structures and find out how they are similar and how they are different. I have the three compounds there for you. I want you to observe each of these three compounds carefully. I will give you a moment's time to observe and reflect. All right, so now that you have looked at these three compounds, can you tell me what is similar in all the three compounds? Yes, what is similar is this group, C double bond O group. This group is similar across all the three set of compounds that is given to us. All the three, this one and this one, all the three have a C double bond O group, which is nothing but our carbonyl group that we were talking about. Hence, all these three compounds come under this basic set called as carbonyl compounds. Now, what is the difference? The difference basically remains who is attached to this carbonyl group. Clear? So who are the things that are attached to the carbonyl group will actually be the difference among all the three compounds that is there. Let's look at the first set of compounds here. In this compound, to a carbonyl group, I have two groups. One is an R group and another one is a hydrogen. If one of them is compulsorily hydrogen, then this compound is called as an aldehyde. Let me repeat. If one of the groups that is attached to carbon, the carbonyl carbon, is compulsorily hydrogen, then I call these compounds as aldehydes. Now, which is the aldehyde functional group? This is my aldehyde functional group, CHO. What about the second one here? In the second case, if both R and R dash are compulsorily carbons, if both R and R dash are what? Compulsorily carbons, then I have the next set of compounds called as ketones. All right, then who is a carboxylic acid? If one of the R groups is OH, then I will get COOH as the functional group. If any compound contains COOH as a functional group, then such compounds are called as carboxylic acids. So here we are. Aldehydes are compounds where one of the atoms that is bonded to the carbonyl carbon must compulsorily be hydrogen. In a ketone, both the groups that is bonded to the carbonyl carbon should be carbon atoms. In a carboxylic acid, the group that is attached to a carbonyl carbon should be an OH. So let's understand their definition. Who are aldehydes? Aldehydes are compounds where a CHO group is attached to an R group, who are ketones. A C double bond O group is attached to two R groups, who is a carboxylic acid. COOH group is attached to an R group. Clear? Super. Now that we know what these compounds are, we'll try to see how to name them. Aldehydes, like every other organic compound, has two names. Which are the two names? Yes, the IUPAC name and the common name. Let's try to see how we name aldehydes according to the IUPAC system. I want you to observe closely. Aldehydes are named by replacing the last letter E of the corresponding alkane by Al. Al is my suffix, secondary suffix. If I replace the last letter E of the alkane with Al, I will get alkanal. This is nothing but the IUPAC name of aldehydes. Let's take an example so that we understand. This is the simplest aldehyde that's available because it contains only one carbon atom. Since this aldehyde contains only one carbon atom, the root word naturally is what? Root word is meth. And since it is obtained from methane, in order to get the aldehyde's name, I will have to replace the E of methane with Al. When I do that, the name that I get is methanal. So methanal is the IUPAC name of this compound. Similarly, I have ethanal, propanal, butanal, pentanal, and so on. Let's look at the common system. Now, in the common system, we said that the name is based on the source. Source can be anything. Source can be a place, it can be a person, it can be an animal, it can be anything. We name these compounds randomly, which means there is no particular pattern. There's no particular way in which we name these compounds. In the common system, they are just randomly named or named based on the source. Let's take an example. The same compound that we looked at here. This compound is called as methanal in the IUPAC system, whereas in the common system, it is called as formaldehyde. I think you would have already come across this formaldehyde in your school. Yeah, now you know why they are used. Yes, this is the reason why we look at why to study these compounds, because each of the compounds are useful to man in our daily life. Formaldehyde is a very good preservative of biological specimens. So all the biological specimens that you have in your labs, in your biology lab, you see a liquid there in which it is hanging. That liquid is not water, that liquid is formaldehyde. All right. So coming to why it was named as formaldehyde, we said again randomly named or based on the source. It is named so because it is obtained from formic acid. Formic acid is the acid from which this aldehyde is obtained from. Formic acid, formicus, means ants. Ants, they inject a chemical. This chemical was found to be acidic in nature. Since it is acidic and obtained from an ant, the name of this was formic acid. And this aldehyde is obtained from formic acid. Therefore, the name formaldehyde. Clear? So the IUPAC name, they're named as alkanal. In the common system, it is based on the source or randomly named. Let's look at ketones. Again, here we have two names, the IUPAC name and the common name. Let's understand each carefully. Ketones are named by replacing the last letter E of the corresponding alkane by ONE or ON, which will give me the name alkanone. So ketone is called as alkanones in the IUPAC system. Let's take an example here. Now this is the simplest ketone. A simplest ketone contains 3 carbon atoms. A simplest aldehyde contains one carbon atom. I cannot get a ketone with one carbon atom because that's what was the definition. We said the two R groups that's attached to a carbonyl carbon in a ketone must compulsorily be carbons, which means the simplest ketone that is known to man is this compound, CH3COCH3. Now, when I look at the root word here, I have three carbon atoms, 1, 2, and 3. So, therefore, it must be derived from propane. So, I have propane. That last E is replaced by what? Yes, the last E is replaced by one. Therefore, I get propanone. So, this is nothing but propanone. The common name of this compound, this is something that you know as well. Propanone is called as acetone. What is propanone? Acetone. Where do we use acetone? All you girls who are listening to this lecture, yes, acetone is nothing but your nail polish remover. You put on your nail polish, you head back to college. If they do not allow you to wear a nail polish, the first thing that you do, you keep your nail polish remover in your bag. On your way to college, you just remove your nail polish that's there. That's nothing but acetone. So acetone is also called as propanone in the IUPAC system. Coming to the common system, depending upon who the R and R dash are, I can have three kinds of ketones. Which are the three? If both the R groups are alkyl, then they'll be named as alkyl alkyl ketone. If one of them is alkyl, the other one is aryl, they'll be named as alkyl aryl ketone. If both are aryl groups, they'll be named as aryl aryl ketones. Now, who will be written first if both the R groups are different? If both the alkyl groups are different, it is decided by the alphabetical order. So, alphabetical order will decide which of these will come first. Let's take an example to understand. I have this ketone CH3, CO, CH2, CH3. Now, what is the IUPAC name of this? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 carbon atoms. So, therefore, it should be bute. It's obtained from butane, so butanone. And the functional group is present at the second position. So, therefore, 2 butanone. Same way here. This is also 2 propanone. I have missed the number 2 there. 2 propanone. This is 2 butanone. Now, how do I name it according to the common system? Now, look at the R groups which are attached. Both the R groups are alkyl groups. So, this comes under this category, alkyl alkyl ketones. Now, out of the two R groups, who will be named first in this system? We follow the alphabetical order. So, let's look at who are the R groups that are there. This is methyl. This is ethyl. When you look at the alphabetical order, ethyl comes first, followed by methyl. So therefore, the name of this compound will be ethyl methyl ketone. Clear? Pretty simple here. Now you can see a clear distinction between the name an aldehyde gets and a ketone gets in common system. For an aldehyde, it is randomly named. We do not have any particular system in which we name. Whereas for a ketone, you have a system. Alkyl, alkyl, ketone. This is the biggest drawback of the common system. You do not have a common way in which you can name all the compounds. Clear? All right, I've given you few set of compounds here. I want you to look at each of these compounds and take it down. Of course, this will be your homework. Write these down. I'll give you a moment's time. I want you to write both the common name as well as the IUPAC name for these aldehydes and ketones. give you some more time. Done? All right. I want you to take this as homework. By the way, I'm not stopping the class here today, right now, which means if I'm moving ahead, I'll be moving ahead with the slide with the names as well. Quickly, I've just moved on to the carboxylic acid. So we will look at the previous slide in tomorrow's class. After you finished writing the homework, we will look at whether you have done it correctly, whether you have named it according to the systems that are followed, and then we look at the previous slide. Clear? Now let's look at how to name carboxylic acid. In the IUPAC system, carboxylic acids are named by replacing the last letter E of the corresponding alkane by oic acid. Oic acid is my suffix, is the name given to the functional group. So I have an alkane. I replace the last letter E of the alkane by oic acid, which will give me alkanoic acid. Clear? It gives me alkanoic acid. Let's take an example to understand this better. This is the simplest carboxylic acid because it contains only one carbon atom. Clear? So this is the simplest carboxylic acid. Since it has one carbon atom, the parent alkane is methane. So how do I get the IUPAC name? Methane. From that, I remove the last letter E and introduce oic acid. When I do that, what do I get? Yes, I get methanoic acid. I get what? I get methanoic acid. Let's look at the common system. In the common system, we have studied that it is based on the source. Again, it is randomly named, just like how aldehydes are named. You remember this compound? We just spoke about it when we named aldehydes. Yes, this is methanoic acid, which contains only one carbon atom. In the common system, it is called as formic acid. And we know the story here. Why is it called as formic acid? So here they are randomly named based on the source in the common system. So in the IUPAC system, we use alkanoic acid. In the common system, it is randomly named and based on the source. I have the second homework for you. I want you to write down these structures one by one. Done? Take them down quickly. All right. Again, as always, I'll just quickly move through the next slide. We will look at the next slide with the names in tomorrow's class. We have understood how to name them. We'll look at how to prepare them. preparation of aldehydes and ketones. Now, these are the methods that you have already studied. Oxidation of alcohols. Remember, where did you do this? Yes, in chemical properties of alcohols. We looked at oxidation of alcohol. Remember, we wrote the story there as well. Primary alcohol upon oxidation will give an aldehyde, which on further oxidation will give, yes, the ones who have really gone back home and practiced, you are remembering this. The others, you're finding stars just because you did not practice. You did not go through the lessons again. So primary alcohols upon oxidation will give an aldehyde, which on further oxidation will give a carboxylic acid containing the same number of carbon atoms. How do we get a ketone? Yes, secondary alcohols upon oxidation will give us ketones. If you further oxidize it, you get a mixture of carboxylic acid. This is what we looked at in the previous chapter. So that's the first method. There we looked at it as a chemical property. Here we are looking at it as a method of preparation, oxidation of alcohols. Second one is again something that you've already come across, dehydrogenation of alcohols. This was one more reaction, one more chemical property that you studied in the previous chapter. Dehydrogenation of alcohols, removal of hydrogen. And the third one, ozonolysis of alkenes. Sounds familiar? Yeah, this you studied in your first year when you did alkanes, alkenes, and alkynes. Alkenes, they undergo ozonolysis to give an aldehyde or a ketone. Finally, the fourth one, hydration of alkynes. Again, something that you have come across in the previous year. Alkynes, one of the chemical properties was hydration. Hydration of alkynes can also give us aldehydes and ketones. Clear? I want you to go back and read these reactions once again. So the four reactions that I want you to go back and revise: oxidation of alcohols, dehydrogenation of alcohols, ozonolysis of alkenes, and hydration of alkynes. Clear? I'll not be going through these reactions again. It's important that you go back home and revise the same. We look at the next set of methods. The first one is starting from acid chlorides. Starting from what? Acid chlorides. Acid chlorides are also called acyl chlorides or acyl halides. This reaction has a name, and the name of this reaction is Rosenmund reduction. Since it is a name reaction, this is an important reaction. So I want you to remember the reaction. Now, what is Rosenmund reduction? In Rosenmund reduction, you take an acid chloride. Yeah, an acid chloride is somebody which has a COCl group. So this is an acid chloride. Since this is an acid chloride that's attached to benzene, we call it as benzoyl chloride. Now, when benzoyl chloride is made to react with hydrogen in the presence of palladium and barium sulfate, now these are the reagents for Rosenmund reduction. Very important, you need to remember. Hydrogen in the presence of barium sulfate, what's happening? This group COCl is getting converted to CHO. COCl is getting converted to what? CHO, which means what's happening here? Yeah, Cl is taken away by one of the hydrogens. Clear? Cl is taken away by one of the hydrogens to go out as what? Go out as HCl. That will remain, that will leave us with one more hydrogen that will remain. That hydrogen will get substituted in place of the chlorine to become a CHO group. So basically what's happening here, the halogen atom of the acid chloride is replaced by the hydrogen that is used as a catalyst, giving us an aldehyde, which is benzaldehyde. Clear? So this is the first method, Rosenmund reduction. At this point, I want you to take a homework. I want you to prepare propanol. I want you to prepare propanol using Rosenmund reduction. In Rosenmund reduction, palladium is the catalyst which helps in giving hydrogen to the reaction. Barium sulfate is used as a catalytic poison or a catalytic inhibitor, which will reduce the effectivity of the catalyst, which is palladium. Palladium is a very, very, very strong reagent. I don't want any further reaction happening after the aldehyde. In order to prevent further reaction from happening, we have to poison this palladium. How do you poison palladium? Poison it by taking it in combination with barium sulfate. Barium sulfate is a poison. It will effectively reduce the efficiency of the catalyst. Thereby, the reaction will stop at the aldehyde stage itself. Otherwise, with more hydrogen atoms, aldehyde can further react to become a alkane and so on. Clear? That's the reason why we use barium sulfate, which is used as a catalytic inhibitor. This has been asked a couple of times in competitive. In Rosenmund reduction, barium sulfate behaves as A, catalyst, B, catalytic poison, C, some solvent, D, none of the above. So you need to understand that this is a catalytic poison. The second compound which we use to prepare an aldehyde is a nitrile. Now, who's a nitrile? Nitrile is the IUPAC name given to cyanides. We are very familiar with cyanides. Here we are looking at the IUPAC name, which is a nitrile. This reaction is also given a name, Stephen's reduction. Again, since there is a name associated with this, it's a very important reaction. So what is Stephen's reduction? I want you to observe the reaction carefully. So what are we doing? I'm taking an RCN, which is nothing but a nitrile. To this RCN, I am taking tin chloride in the presence of HCl. So what am I taking? Tin chloride in the presence of HCl. Now look at what's happening here. To nitrogen, I have H, H, and Cl forming a complex. Clear? Two hydrogens get added to nitrogen. Both the hydrogens will take away one of the bonds. Since nitrogen has lost its lone pair too, it will get a positive charge, and Cl minus will be there in the system. It will get attracted to this ion to form an ionic salt. In the next step, we just take the ion, observe what's happening. It is made to react with water. When it is made to react with water, what am I getting? I'm getting an aldehyde. Oxygen is replacing this group. Clear? And how was that removed? I have two hydrogens in water. Both the hydrogens will be used to take away the nitrogen, which will go out as NH4 plus ammonium ion. And in place of that NH2 plus, oxygen will come in, giving us what? Giving us an aldehyde. Clear? This is Stephen's reduction. So let me explain this reaction once again for you. So we take a nitrile, Who's a nitrile? A cyanide is called as a nitrile in the IUPAC system. Now you take a nitrile and react it with tin chloride and HCl. So for Stefan's reduction, you need to remember that the reducing agent is tin chloride in the presence of HCl. In the first step, what happens is hydrogens get added to nitrogen. Hence it is called as reduction. Reduction is nothing but addition of hydrogen. Hydrogens get added to nitrogen and this nitrogen will acquire a positive charge. In the second step, this ion that is obtained will undergo reaction with water. When it reacts with water, the NH2 plus will take away two hydrogens of water to go out as what? To go out as ammonium ion, NH4 plus ion. In place of that NH2 plus, who's coming in? Oxygen is coming in. The moment oxygen comes in, I get an aldehyde. Clear? Got that? Super. I want you to take a homework here. I want you to prepare ethanal. I want you to prepare ethanal. ETHANAL. Eth means two carbon atoms, so which means this is an aldehyde which contains two carbon atoms. Ethanal. Ethanal is also called as acetaldehyde. That is the common name. The common name of ethanal is acetaldehyde. I want you to prepare acetaldehyde using Stefan's reduction. Clear? All right. We look at the third method, starting from an ester. Now, who is an ester? An ester is a compound which contains a COOR functionality which is attached to an R group. Clear? So an ester has a general formula R COO R dash. If this is different, then I'll just name it as R dash. Clear? Now, can you see a carboxylic acid here? Yes, you can. You can see a carboxylic acid. If I just try to remove this R and put one hydrogen, then I will get the carboxylic acid, right? Yeah. So let's see what actually happens in this case. In this case, what we are doing is we are making it react with a reducing agent along with water. So Dibal is a reducing agent along with water. In the second step, we get an aldehyde and an alcohol. We get an aldehyde and what? And an alcohol. We use water, right? Now, from water, water breaks into what? H plus and OH minus. Clear? So it will give me H plus and OH minus. The BAL is a reducing agent. It gives me hydrogens, free hydrogens that can be used for reduction. So what actually happens here? This ester breaks into two parts. How does it break? It breaks with OR going out and this RCO going out. So these are the two parts. This is the first part and this is the second part. To this, hydrogen gets added. This will become my alcohol, R-OH. So to this part, we add one hydrogen, which will become an alcohol. To this part, we add one hydrogen too. The moment I add an hydrogen to this part, it becomes RCHO. Clear? Which is nothing but an aldehyde. So esters, upon reduction with DIBAL as a reducing agent and water, gives me an aldehyde and an alcohol. Clear? Now, which R group is part of the aldehyde, which R group is part of the alcohol? It's clearly mentioned in this reaction. the R group that is attached to the oxygen of the ester becomes the alcohol, whereas the R group that is attached to the carbonyl carbon becomes the aldehyde. Clear? So this is preparation of aldehydes from esters. I want you to prepare benzaldehyde. I want you to prepare benzaldehyde. Don't take it as homework. I'll give you time right now. Just look at this reaction and prepare benzaldehyde. For this, you should know what is benzaldehyde. Yes, benzaldehyde is an aldehyde where the R group will be what? R group will be benzene ring C6H5. If this should be benzaldehyde and the R group should be C6H5, naturally this R group should be what? This R group also should be C6H5. This you can take anything. It can be CH3, C2H5, C3H7, your choice. Simplest, we can take it as CH3. So when I take an ester where this is benzene and this is CH3, I get benzaldehyde and methanol. These are the two compounds that are obtained starting from an ester. Clear? Do we have time for one more reaction? Or do you want me to close for the day? Yeah, so I will close for the day. I've given you sufficient homework. I want you to ensure that you submit the homework in time. Revise these reactions. Very important, otherwise it's very, very easy to forget. And revise it not 1 week from now, revise it the moment this class gets over. The moment this class gets over, I want you to just brush through the slides, through the video, or in the evening you get some time, spend around half an hour looking at these reactions. If you don't do this, don't take this effort right now. I've already told you, organic chemistry is highly volatile. You think that you would have understood the reaction when it is taught, but few days later, when the name is given, say Stephen's reduction is given, you will just roll your eyes up and think, who is Stephen? I've never come across this person at all in my life. Neither did this teacher teach me. This is how your response is going to be. Clear? It's important that you keep practicing, revising these reactions as and when you get time, especially the reactions which have a name. So super, we will close the class for today. We will continue from this particular reaction in the next class. Thank you so much.